Unfortunately, I cannot be in Norway in person, but I'm very grateful that I can at least participate via video. So welcome to our session, talking about esports, discourses according to esports funding in Germany. And first of all, I would like you to ask you to think about how, in your experience, esports is discussed in wider society and politics worldwide or in your country. And what do you think are the main issues that dominate this discourse? Who raises these questions and who takes part in the discussion? Are sports, child and youth protection, digitalization, culture, or other topics and areas of life being discussed in connection with esports? This is precisely the focus of the current step within my doctoral thesis, which I would like to take you through in this session. My name is Jana Möglich, and I'm a German lecturer, PhD student, and scholarship holder in media studies in Germany. Concretely at the European University of Flensburg and the University of Applied Sciences Kiel, which is the most northern state of Germany, like very near to Denmark, and a bit near to Norway too. And my profession is media and marketing management, and my practical knowledge is mostly based on my work as an honorary member at the Esports Federation of the German state Schleswig-Holstein, and also at the State Center for Esports in Schleswig-Holstein, which you see here above the line. My topics today for this presentation are, of course, a part of my doctoral thesis, as I already mentioned. So first, we will talk about introduction to my research topic, and then I will go on with research concept and methodology, and we will end with the first findings, of course, and further research. So let me introduce you to my research topic, research subject in this case. At first, I want to localize my presentation topic, as I already mentioned. This discourse analysis I present to you today is part of my doctoral thesis. And my doctoral thesis focuses on state fundings, state esports fundings, and its stakeholders in Germany. The subject of my investigation is concretely based on 3 German states in Germany, which are North Rhine-Westphalia, Saxony-Anhalt, and Schleswig-Holstein. Recognition of esports in Germany, although a part of the population is still skeptical, and esports, as I said, is neither recognized as a sport in Germany nor recognized as non-profit. Still, the political debates changed fundamentally within the last years. I looked at the, for example, German Bundestag, where these topics on a national basis are discussed, and there is a shift happening from like very fundamental questions you may know from other discourses, is esports really a sport, to a more precise, more differentiated questions like how esports societal and economical potential can be tapped and how esports can be positively supported by the government, for example. Yeah, about esports funding in Germany. There is not much esports funding in Germany still, but there are, for example, isolated federal states in Germany, like my case states I focus on in my doctoral thesis, North Rhine-Westphalia, Saxony-Anhalt, and Schleswig-Holstein, who started with first governmental promotions, fundings on esports, or even went further into the fundings, focusing especially on, for example, societal and economical potentials. So this beginning scientific work is a socio-economic, stakeholder-centered consideration of state esports funding in Germany. talking about the research concept and the methodology. Yeah, according to literature research, which I already did a lot, of course, already, I focused on stakeholders in general, but also on scientific works according to esports stakeholders, and try to transfer it to my key stakeholders according to esports funding, especially. Yeah, and the results you see here, which are preliminary results, of course, but it gives us a kind of idea in which field of stakeholders we are working when we are focusing on the 3 German states I already mentioned. So as you see here, we have the game publishers, we have sponsors or business partners, which are often endemic, but more and more are becoming also more non-endemic. We have different associations according to esports, sports, youth, but also any other topics you can imagine focusing on esports or that can be connected to esports. We have the tournament organizers, broadcast and media, the general public, which also means, for example, target groups like parents or teachers, teams and players, the fans, of course, and a government policy. Which I should also mention, we have not only the associations, but we also have like federations, which are like the overall representation of different associations. For example, in Schleswig-Holstein, we have Esports Federation of Schleswig-Holstein, and different like smaller associations are organized under this Esports Federation. Yeah, coming to the discourse analysis. The basis we focus on here is the discourse theory based on Michel Foucault, especially, who said that discourse is like all the statements in form of text, images, concepts, etc. that circulate on a topic. And this is also my basic data I work with. So different texts, especially published documents according to my research topic, which is esports funding in the respective 3 German states. Of course, there are various approaches to discourse analysis. I mentioned here some examples, for example, the critical discourse analysis, the deconstructive discourse analysis, historical discourse analysis, and sociological discourse analysis. But in my case, I focus on the sociological discourse analysis according to knowledge, because I want to focus really on the stakeholders, as I said, their interests, their knowledge, also their power, which takes place or also has an impact on the discourse. So this kind of analysis approach is based on Rainer Keller, and focuses on the relationship between knowledge and power. Power is always a big topic according to discourse analysis, because the actors within a discourse that have a lot of power in general, also have a lot of power, usually according to the certain discourse topic. This approach also focuses on different actors, the interests and the influence of their knowledge and perspectives on the discourse, which is also focusing on my research questions, and that's why it also fits very well for our purpose. And it examines discourse conflicts, formation rules, content-related positioning, and the preconditions and consequences of discursive processes. Focusing on this approach, on the discourse analysis and the sociology of knowledge, we have 5 steps, which you may also know from content analysis methods. So they are pretty similar to these methods. which means at first, of course, we have to set up a research question, which in my case is how are esports and its social and economic potential and challenges presented in the political and social discourse in North Rhine-Westphalia, Saxony-Anhalt, and Schleswig-Holstein. So I focus on the social and the economic potentials and challenges, which is always a part of my research work. And on the other hand, I say here that I focus on like the political and the social discourse. You could also focus on like media discourses or any other discourses you can think of. But I focus on these part discourses according to esports funding. Secondly, there's a literature review, which means, of course, as in every scientific work, the review of the current state of research according to esports discourse analysis in this case, and deal with its core concepts. But here we have a limitation, which we set. So my supervisors and me set, because you could do a whole scientific work, a whole doctoral thesis focusing on discourse analysis. So we said, because we already have a theoretical background according to stakeholder theory, but also other theories according to my overall doctoral thesis topic, we exclude the theoretical background according to the discourse analysis. Of course, we have the discourse theory, which is the basis of the whole discourse analysis approach. But we are not going further into the theoretical background according to pragmatic research reasons. The third step is the selection of data, which means compile data from published documents. In my case, I started with May 2016 because it was the first mention of esports at the federal level in federal level documents, and also one of the biggest esports associations has been established in 2016. So it felt like the good start, a good start for this scientific work. The material, the databases are coalition agreements, party programs, political debates, hearings, committees, public speeches, press releases and position papers, public statements, and also media reports. Per case, so per German state, I have 10 to 15 sources I analyzed. This analysis method means that you analyze documents and then you try to look at your research question and try to be concrete about which document really is interesting still for your research question, and also which documents give new results to your esports question, to your esports research question. And in my case, I realized that after like 10 to 15 sources, there are not any new results that are interesting or relevant for the research questions. And that's why I limited or stopped at like 10 to 15 sources per state. The fourth step, coding evaluation, which means, for example, when you focus on this text, on the documents, you form categories that summarize and link recurrent aspects of the discourse. So here's also a differentiation according to content analysis, because you don't go that deep into the text. You have no analysis of individual statements, but of overarching patterns, and, for example, argumentation lines and topics. So you're not focusing on every word and every sentence in the documents, but you're focusing on the patterns in the discourse analysis. In my case, the preliminary analysis criteria that I found relevant for my research questions are the dates of when the documents were published, the text types, the author, and also the stakeholder type of the authors, the category or subject or tags. So under which category or tag the document was published, or esports, for example, in the party program was mentioned. The headline, the link, of course, so URL to the certain document, a brief summary of the document's text, institutions, projects, and persons mentioned, which is very important for us to identify the stakeholders, the central statements of the text, and also if they use references according to external sources, because this is focusing on the knowledge of the stakeholders, of the authors, of the persons that published this document. So you can see from the external sources where the people or the institutions get their knowledge from. And we also have the preliminary categories according to our actors, so the people or the institutions that publish documents, which are so far politics, esports, sports, education, youth, non-endemic economy, and culture, which you will see later when I show you my first results. You see one of his approaches to present results of his discourse analysis. So you see a table according to the actors, and also different discourses linked to these actors. So it's about the fifth step, which means the presenting of the results. So what was found out about discourse in consideration of the research questions, also structuring according to, e.g., the actors or the content patterns using the categories we already established in the other steps, and also, of course, discuss the results. And according to the sociologist Wolfgang Ludwig Meyerhofer, you can use these questions to discuss the results. When does a discourse appear and when does it disappear again? What linguistic or symbolic means are used? How are objects constituted and formed by the discourse? What are decisive events in the course of a discourse? Which actors occupy which positions and how? Who is the best bearer, addressee, and audience of the discourse? What references does the discourse make to other discourses? So these could be leading questions to discuss your results, the results of your discourse analysis, but also here is a limitation, because as you see by these questions, you can, of course, also write a whole scientific work only focusing on these questions. Yeah, so I have to focus on the most relevant questions according to my research work. So let's talk about first results and also possible further research. I also used the table approach to organize the actors I identified so far. So you have the three states, the three German states I focus on in my analysis: North Rhine-Westphalia, Saxony-Anhalt, and Schleswig-Holstein on the top. And then you have the first category here, the politics, where you see that there are different governmental levels that publish documents according to esports, or focusing on esports, or only mentioning esports, which on the highest base, of course, are, for example, the federal government, Germany, but also especially a lot the state governments of the certain or of the respective German states. You also see that we have here different ministries that are actors within the discourse according to esports funding. And you also have different parties which are above on the very bottom, according different political parties that are using esports or mentioning esports in their political documents or in their political speeches or in other texts according to esports funding. You see here also that there are different personalities within these institutions that are sometimes like publishing statements according to the esports funding, and there are a lot actors here. That's why I needed a whole page or a whole slide for the political actors, of course, because we are talking about esports funding, and who is establishing fundings, the political actors. So a second slide, according to the actors, also again based on the analyzed text, and also to mention E.V. means in Germany association, so eingetragener Verein. You have new categories here on the left-hand side, esports and sports, where you also see that there are in all the 3 German states mostly esports actors talking about esports, but there are also in every state the state sports federations that are mentioning esports, that are discussing about esports, that are stepping into the esports funding discourse. You also see that there are some regional institutions according to esports. So, for example, in North Rhine-Westphalia, there is the Esports Academy NRW. And in Saxony-Anhalt, you have the Esports Hub Saxony-Anhalt. And in Schleswig-Holstein, you have the State Center for Esports and Digitization in Schleswig-Holstein, and also the regional centers for esports. So they are also in these 3 German states I focus on, because they already have an esports funding on a federal basis or in a state basis. They also already have all established at least one esports institution which focuses really on esports. Yeah, the other categories: education, youth, or non-endemic, economy, and culture. You see here, these are categories for some more actors that are mentioned in the analyzed text. But when you compare it to like this slide, according to the esports and sports actors, or especially to this slide, according to political actors, you may recognize that there are not a lot of actors that are taking or that are stepping into the esports funding discourse, but they have been mentioned at least one time within the analyzed text. So you have, on the education level, you have some universities, for example, that are mentioned, usually according to scientific work focusing on esports. And also there, as I already mentioned, in the key stakeholders of esports funding, which we already focused on, there are also institutions from other fields like youth, non-endemic economy, which means also business partners or sponsors, and culture. And here in Germany, you see different links to Denmark too, because as I already mentioned, this is very near to Denmark. So we have, for example, the Nefsted library mentioned here, which did a cooperation with the State Center for Esports in Schleswig-Holstein. And at the political actors, you may have recognized that in Schleswig-Holstein, there's also the South Schleswig Voters Association, so the Danish minority party, which also focuses on esports in their party programs. And yeah, so you have also here a kind of link to Denmark a bit. Yeah, that's so far to the actors I identified within the texts I analyzed so far. Yeah, focusing on resource and tags or categories under which the texts were published, because we can see also in what kind of topic fields the discourse according to esports takes place. You have 3 bubbles here. One bubble is according to NRW or North Rhine-Westphalia or NRW. Which you see here were mostly published tags under media, they tag media, publishing, or sports and sports youth. In Saxony-Anhalt, the tags or the documents were published under the tags Business, Science and Work 4.0, Modern Thinking, and News and Events. And Schleswig-Holstein, here you see you have the tags Business, Internal Affairs and Legal, which also shows that it's the esports funding is established or was established from the internal ministry of Schleswig-Holstein. So that's why some documents are categorized under Internal Affairs and Legal. You also have the category recreational sports and computer games. And also here, like in North Rhine-Westphalia, you have here also focus on regional sports. So sports is one focus you can identify here, according to the resource and text. Yeah, let's come to the most interesting part from my perspective, the discourse topics I already analyzed or already identified. Of course, it's an ongoing scientific work, so there are many more topics and also narratives and argumentation lines I have to analyze. But according to Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia, Saxony-Anhalt, and Schleswig-Holstein, you have some overall aspects like the frequent reference to traditional sports, I already mentioned. You have an exchange with sports representatives that takes different forms at the federal level and in the federal states. You have the recognition as a sport and as a non-profit organization or a non-profit activity of esports, which is consistent within all these areas. So these are themes that are coming up again and again and again. And you have mainly political institutions and representatives, as well as representatives from esports that are very present in the discourse. According to Germany, because I recognize that the discourse on a German basis was partly relevant also, and also has had impact on the state level partly. You have also some overall discourse topics, for example, the shared responsibility between different ministries on the federal basis or on the national basis, the ministries of youth, family and youth, finance and sports are happening on the national basis, which also means that they have different opinions, of course, on the topic and sometimes even contradict each other, which you can recognize in different political debates that also came into media according to esports funding. The federal government says from themselves or mentioned in political documents that they are guided by the conceptual understanding of the organized sports associations on esports. Should be esports here. So here you see that in Germany, you have like the Sports Federation of Germany that really is usually deciding which activities are sports and which are not sports. And you see that they really have great power. That's why the government orientates on their concept, which means, as we said, for example, the distinction between esports and gaming, which means esports is everything or are all the computer game titles that have a focus on traditional sports like FIFA or EA FC, and e-gaming are all the other titles, like all titles that don't have a connection to sports, so League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Dota, and stuff like that. Yeah, let's come to the 3 states we are focusing on. NRW has a close connection between esports and traditional sports, which you see in different texts and different documents. And in sports, they are viewing esports as non-sporting youth work. And they also claim that esports is not a sport. And they also focus a lot on talent development. In Saxony-Anhalt, you have a great emphasis on the economic factor of esports, so the business perspective according to esports. And in Schleswig-Holstein, you have a very critical attitude on the part of traditional sports. So the traditional sports sees esports very critical and also follows the national level here, like the federal government of Germany too, according to the definition of esports. You have a strong emphasis on positive support for involvement in esports. So they see that esports is developing and esports is relevant on different levels, and that's why they deal with esports, and they just try to establish a positive support of esports. Also regardless of the definition of sport or recognition as non-profit. They always pursue a close connection with digitization funding. So they especially focus on not taking sports budget for esports activities. So they try to differentiate here on a financial basis. And there's a frequent connection of esports with the topics of addiction prevention and media literacy promotion. For example, in the funding programs, you see it a lot, and also in the statements of the political actors or in the statements of the esports and sports actors. Yeah, these are the first results of my scientific work. I hope they are very delightful for you. But of course, there are still a lot of steps to go within my doctoral thesis, and that's what I want to talk about with you now for our last slide. And it focuses on the next steps, like the classification of the identified actors based on the stakeholder model. So I have called them actors, and now I have to focus on how can they fit into a stakeholder model, how can I differentiate the different actors within clusters, stuff like that. Also, the analysis of the relationship between these actors or later stakeholders, the analysis of the connection between key events and stakeholder statements. So connecting the events according to esports funding with stakeholder statements. Sometimes there are events that has had an impact on the discourse and that provoked kind of statements. And the finalization of the identification of relevant stakeholders based on literature research. Yeah, so that was my part I wanted to take. I wanted to present you here within my session. I would also be very grateful. Of course, I have my bibliography here too. But I would also be very grateful if you reach out for me when you have any questions according to my research work, or want to discuss according to esports funding in general, and want to get in touch according to my research topics or any other esports related topics. So you see here my contact information, like my email, LinkedIn, Twitter, Eddie, but also my Discord, Eddie. I'm also on the Discord server of the Academic Esports Seminar. And yeah, thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and we'll see us again at another esports conference in the future.